Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories viewed here can be found at our website at indiancountrynews.com. Here's the news read for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A federal appeals court has upheld the conviction and 32-month prison term of a woman who fatally stabbed her boyfriend at their home on the Fort Peck Reservation in northeastern Montana. Stanette Crow, now 23, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the New Year's Day 2007 death of 22-year-old Donald Eagleman. U.S. District Judge Sam Haddon sentenced Crow to 32 months in a federal prison and 3 years of supervised release. The couple had an 18-month-old son, and Crow had recently given birth to another child at the time of sentencing. Crow and Eagleman had gone to a bar on New Year's Eve 2006. They argued when Crow wanted to leave, and the argument continued at their home in Brockton early on New Year's Day 2007. Crow told investigators Eagleman tried to choke her before she grabbed a knife and stabbed him in the chest. Eagleman was pronounced dead at the hospital in Poplar, Montana. Grand Consul Chief John Beaucage says the expression of sorrow issued by Pope Benedict XVI about the Catholic Church's role in operating Indian residential schools should be seen as a foundation on which a reconciliation process can be built. We want to see the bishops, dioceses, and Roman Catholic communities and churches in Canada embrace their responsibility and move towards reconciliation with First Nations, said Beaucage. He represents 42 Anishinaabe Nation communities in Ontario. I'd like to see the impacts of the papal apology be recognized and addressed not only at the Vatican, but within Canada. Beaucage said that if elected national chief at the Assembly of First Nations Assembly in Calgary this July, he intends to meet with the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops to determine a course of action to build an apology issued by the Vatican following a private audience with an AFN delegation. Apologies for their roles in operating the network of 130 residential schools in Canada have previously been offered up by the Anglican, Presbyterian, and United Churches, and last June, Prime Minister Stephen Harper issued an apology on behalf of the Government of Canada. Governor John Baldacci has signed a bill to establish June 21st of each year as Native American Veterans Day in Maine. Decorated World War II veteran Charles Shea of Indian Island helped to persuade the legislature to pass the bill. Shea said American Indians from Maine had served in every single war since the American Revolution, and it was time they were honored for their heroism and patriotism. Corey Smith, an Indian education instructional coach for the Great Falls, Montana schools, has been named the state's 2009 Indian Educator of the Year. The award is given by the Montana Indian Education Association. Sandra Boham, Director of Indian Education for Great Falls Public Schools, says Smith has had a long-standing commitment to the Indian Education for All program. Smith says her goals have been to develop curriculum that reflects the Native American student population, as well as breaking the stereotypes held by non-Native students. Smith started teaching in Browning 17 years ago and has been an Indian educational instructional coach for over 3 years. Work is expected to begin soon on a new tribal museum in Suquamish, Washington. Tribal Chairman Leonard Forsum told the Catsup Sun the Suquamish Museum and Arts Center will replace the museum that opened in 1983. The new 9,000 square foot museum will have more room for artifacts from the ancestral home of Chief Seattle. Plans are still in the works to renovate Chief Seattle's gravesite at the St. Peter's Church in Suquamish, Washington. American Indian business owners and others gather next week in Rapid City, South Dakota for a 2-day meeting. The South Dakota Indian Business Alliance will host its second conference on May 5th and 6th at the Ramkota Best Western Hotel and Conference Center. The focus of the group and the South Dakota Indian Business Conference is to help develop Native businesses through governmental and legal reform, infrastructure development, increased financing, and expanding the resources available to entrepreneurs. National and local experts South Dakota tribal leaders and business owners will take part in the meeting. And Native American Natural Foods of Kyle, South Dakota, plans to unveil its newest product, the Tonka Dog, a healthier hot dog created from buffalo and wild rice. The Kinna organization of Vermont is pleased to announce the receipt of a grant award in the amount of $25,000 from the Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company Foundation. A Santa Fe Natural Tobacco Company's Foundation's generous grant award in the fall of 2007 was instrumental in the launching of a history, language, and environmental justice initiative. This current award will enable this foundation to strengthen this past year's initiative. History, language, and environmental justice is a regional, indigenous, traditional, ecological, knowledge, and cultural revitalization initiative for Native American youth across northern New England. The intent of fostering an in-depth understanding of the environment, native languages, connections to places, as well as responsibilities to each other. As part of the History and Language Initiative, Kinna is launching a language recovery program involving a community-based revitalization of traditional songs and language. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast and you for joining with us again today. Miigwech.